Hey there, comic book friends and fiends. It's Rob here in front of the Great Wall of Comics, and it's time for another episode of Sidekicks Talk Comic.
If that little bit more money means that my books are going to come back quicker, then hallelujah.
Just to remind us of our good friend Slot, but joining me today on the panel as we're getting ready to discuss Spider-Man, we have, of course, my SlabHub compadre, Mr. Chris, the comic vet. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, Rob. How are you?
I am safe and well, thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it.
All the way from Florida, King Spidey himself.
Hello, true believers. It's your boy, Freaky Loowee.
Yeah,
baby. Oh, thank you.
And joining us also, Instagrammer, full nerd, a good friend of mine, Rob. How are you doing, sir?
I am well. How are you guys doing?
I am just ducky, or maybe it's spidery. Me spider senses a tingling. This is being a good show. So, what brings us all together today is a common thread that we are all Spider-Man fiends, comic book friends and fiends, no less.
I see. I understood that reference.
Good, excellent. Real quick before we get started in the conversation, hello. Yes, Chris, the comic vet, was there. He was ready, hanging out, ready to go. As always, from New Mexico, our good man, Lascrucius. Beckerman is right. Spider-Man was a good concept if only they had done more with the character. He never really reached his full potential, I don't believe.
Just a has-been?
Yeah, really. Sorry. Freaky Loowee, of course, right here, ready to rock and roll.
Yes.
Jean, how you doing? Let's see here. We got a thumbs up button. Yeah, it says Jean, absolutely. Chop and Drop, big supporter of everybody. Christopher, of course. How are you doing there, Film Age Studio?
I need to get this off my face.
We'll be done with it in a moment. It's because I don't like it bouncing up and down, having us bouncing up. And of course, Remy Q Studios, baby.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Gary B, the casual comic guy. How
Yes,
you
guys,
doing?
bro.
Marty.
Hello.
Yes, my boy.
Digger Jim, of course,
Yeah.
all the way out in there, Maryland, digging up the good stuff.
That Voltron.
Dave collects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Happy to have you guys all with us here. We're going to talk about Spider-Man for the next 25 to 30 minutes, hopefully here, as we'll do. I always keep this show fairly short. Of course, Sidekicks running every Tuesday, the 1st and the 3rd. Every first and third Tuesday, not every Tuesday. But I want to kick it off today. First, since we're going to talk about Spider-Man, let's just throw it out there first. Best Spider-Man. We're talking comic book Spider-Man. So we're not talking about which actor played the best Spider-Man, although maybe we'll ask that question too later. But Chris, who is Spider-Man?
Come on. Next question. I'd be willing to talk about who's second and third, but for me, obviously, it starts and ends with Peter Parker. Like, there's no, all joking aside, there's no second place. Without, sure, we can talk about Miles, we can talk about McGill, we can even talk about Ben, but without Peter, there is no conversation. So it for me, it starts and ends with Peter Parker. He's the one that I grew up with, relating to. You know, he's the one that even in my 20s, I was still related to him. And even now, looking back at some of those stories, yeah, he's still a relatable character.
Phenomenal. Full nerd.
Hi. Peter. 100% Peter. It's everything else is just gravy. I mean, every time they have a rumor of, Peter being replaced, I know in my heart it's temporary, and there's no Spider-Man without Peter. It's just, he's the guy. He's my guy. He's your guy. I mean, that's it for
Yeah, pretty much.
There's no franchise without him, really.
Fair enough. Freaky Loowee.
Oh, baby. No.
I know you love them equally, almost.
Nah, it's always going to be Peter. And according to Spider-Verse, the only one that can destroy Morlun, whatever. Well, that's why. He's the only one. And we all love him equally. Like, how does one character capture all that? I don't think any other Marvel character can do that. Or any even superheroes. Superman, Batman, all amazing. but Peter Parker is the everyman. And just knowing that there really is a Parker house and the Parkers actually live in it, and that's just like, come on, life imitating art to me, just beautiful. It's meant to be, dude.
Peter Parker is the Tigger of Spider-Man. He's the only one, right?
Yes.
Although, Beckerman, find yourself in timeout. Suggesting that a clone. I don't.
You must be
I know-
loving it right now in the comics.
You brought it up, so let's go with that. All right. So right now, Ben Reilly has taken over the main title, obviously, temporarily. Obviously, until we get to issue 800, because everybody loves a nice round number
And a new number one.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
So Ben, let me start with Freaky Louie. What is your thought, A, of the current Ben Reilly run that's what we've had thus far, and B, clones?
Ben, I never really read Ben. When I started reading as a kid, it was right after the Clone Saga. And I remember everybody being so mad about this Clone Saga. I'm like, I don't get it.
That hurts me
I was
greatly
just
what you just said.
confused.
As a kid.
Yeah,
Right? I was a kid. I was
that's adorable.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
Get it hard.
Who invited this kid?
Oh my God. Sorry. Thank you,
I
Louie.
don't have an opinion much on Ben. The stuff I read on Spider-Verse and then his run was like, okay, you're blonde. There's nothing more to you. Like I don't know. So I don't really have an attachment to him. So right now it's the same thing. I'm just like kind of going through this, like, wow, they're really stretching this Beyond thing, huh? And it's not. This is the first time in a long time that I'm just flipping through pages. I think you said it today, like an 8-year-old, just kind of like, oh, pages and colors. It's not really. So I love Peter. I love Peter's adventures, and it doesn't always matter who writes him. I always like him. His reaction to everything happening around is it's like feel like it's my reaction to the Marvel universe. So yeah, sorry, Ben. What was the second question though? But I'm sorry. So,
Just
Clones.
just the clones.
oh,
in general.
clones. You have to get over it because there's so many clones right now. Isn't Iron Man, Prowler,
Yes, he is.
all these people technically clones right now?
Entire every
Yeah, like, wow.
every X-Men at this point is
Yeah.
now a
So I
clone.
was like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. But I like to use, especially the Spider-Man clones. I just, it's like, okay.
Yeah, you should go back and read the 90s stuff then. It'll hurt your heart in so many
Oh,
ways.
goodness.
I definitely want to get to you, Rob, on this real first, but I do want to recognize, of course, John Norris. Welcome. Of course, Beckerman making fun of my making fun of liking round numbers, but then, of course, my OCD when it comes to even in symmetrical squares on shows, of course, whatever. And, of course, yes, Peter is the GOAT. Very good. All right.
Peter Porker is the goat. That is with the
Oh,
Peter Porker.
Like that.
Peter Porker's a pig, actually.
Yeah.
You might want to
He's
go
a
back to
spider.
school. It just shows me that I'm going
boy.
to assume that Ray is an American and that the American education system has once again failed many of us.
Wow.
Again.
I am
Otherwise,
not touching that one. But okay.
hey, I can say it. I'm,
It's
very-
out here, man.
Go
Look,
ahead.
I'm allowed to make fun of a few things in life. One is bald-headed, fat, white guys
Yeah.
and Americans, because I'm all of those. Self-deprecating humor.
Boom.
That's all that's left.
I think I have all the hair for all three of you guys.
That's right. All right. So, Rob, you are getting along, sir. Super hippie.
I'm a hippie now.
Oh my God. Maybe I shouldn't have invited you. No, just kidding. Can always Rob, Ben Reilly, and clones in general.
Oh, well, Ben Reilly, it's fine for a little temporary change of pace. I don't have a problem with it. If the current run is fine, it's a nice placeholder till the next Peter Parker adventure comes along, and Peter's have been in half of the Beyond, so it's not like we're not seeing him. It's just a little Ben thing. He'll probably die at the end and all that, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. I'm not excited for it when the next one comes out. It's fine. The clones, I know you and I are the same age, Rob, and when it came out in the 90s, I was so excited for the Clone Saga until it ran for 2 years. And after a while, when everybody was a clone and they just kind of put Peter down so far to build up Ben, I found it to be just very disheartening. Now, when they started to wrap it up, I really started to like it. When they brought like Norman Osborn back and everything, I was like really into it. But probably the first, I don't know, 60 issues of the thing, I was really just, it wore you down. Wore you down.
Absolutely. Chris, same questions.
I don't even like saying the writer's name that handled 1 to 75 at the current volume that we're handling. I don't even like saying his name. So they could literally put, Jessica in there and call her Spider-Man, and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer that every Peter story needs to be maximum 12 issues. The greatest Spider-Man story ever told was The Death of Kraven, in my opinion, and that was done in 6. So we don't need 75 issues focusing in and around Kindred or any other stupid, silly, by the way, clone type of villain. And it just doesn't need to be done. So the fact that, like he mentioned just before myself, yeah, this is a Ben story dealing with the Beyond Corporation, and now we're having a couple spin-off titles as well. I believe Ben just got his own #1, and now Black Cat and MJ, they got their own spin-off because of this Beyond Corporation saga that we're dealing with. But like you mentioned, this Peter is still all over these issues. Like, I get that we're dealing with Peter is not himself. He's still in the most recent issue 75%. Cap and Black Cat are trying to amp him up the best that they can, train him, because of the run-in that he had with the UFOs from the Immortal Hulk storyline that we had recently. It's still better than what we had, and I have faith in Zeb Wells. That we may look back at a year and I'll be like kicking myself in the mouth. Who knows? But at this point, right now, I'm okay with them hitting another reset button on a volume. Give us a new #1. I don't care. Just make it last the season. Give us 12, like whatever storyline we're going to get out of it. Make it last 6 or 10 or 12. Wrap it up. Give us another writer or whatever, or just hit the restart button for a brand new story. Whatever it is we're going to do, keep it not necessarily keep it simple, but keep it short. It doesn't need to be dragged out. It doesn't need to be Dan Slott setting up 200 issues to where Dr. Octopus gets Peter's consciousness or puts his own consciousness in Peter's body. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. And I'm not a fan of the clones. I like the whole idea of Kane when it first started, Kane Parker when it started, but then it just anamorphed into something just bizarre. And call it one more day or the Clone Saga, call it. But the 90s was not good to Peter Parker storytelling.
Right. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, look, from my perspective, it's been well documented that I was reading comics in the 90s and I walked away from comics because of maximum clonage. I
didn't
literally,
know that.
maximum clonage was the impetus that caused me to just sell off my collection and walk away from comics for 20 years until my son was just starting to get into reading, and I wanted him to read more and start taking him to the comic book shop. So I can't endorse the freaking clones at all. It's just ridiculous, and it has become a redundant trope in not just throughout the Spider-Man books, but now, as we talked about, it has permeated the entire Marvel universe, that it's just the solution to everything. Either you don't like somebody and we're going to kill them off. Oh, it was a scroll, or we've cloned them when we want to bring them back, right? And
Lazy
that's
writing.
It's just lazy. And so anytime a clone comes up, now I will admit that I have been reading this. I have given it a chance. The Ben Reilly stuff has been, as we've suggested, it's fine. It's as Taylor would say, it's a 6.0, right? It's fine, but maybe a 5.5, fine minus. But it's not good. It's not great. It's
No.
I mean,
It's not.
We're looking at it. It's almost is, only because you compare what you went through, but it's just not great, and I can't truly support Ben. And I couldn't believe that then they turned around and did a whole clone saga with Miles.
But the Miles
at the
one
same-
was actually
which was
fun,
better.
though.
Which
Yeah,
was
it was a lot of-
which was okay.
but
Yeah.
but
It's a lot of
still, it's
fun.
like
But
it's
yeah,
like-
they didn't go overboard with Miles though.
What do
They
we
didn't
have?
go
Four
overboard.
issues done.
we're out of
Yeah.
issues. We're out of ideas already. We're just gonna go. Oh, hey, let's just take this story from
That's one too.
here and let's make a couple minor twists and changes, add some diversity, and voila.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Who hasn't gotten the first question yet? Answer yet?
We all did.
You all got a first question. All right. Well,
So,
then let's we'll start down. Rob, let's start with you here on this one.
yes.
And
Ready.
so, Peter, we've all established ourselves as Peter first and foremost because without him, there's nothing else. If for no other reason, what attracted you to Spider-Man when you started reading? And was he your first comic book love, or was he just the final Spider?
No,
superhero
he's
love?
always been my first. He was my first. I remember when I was 4, I got Amazing Spider-Man 177 with the Bart Hamilton Green Goblin,
Mhm.
and at the same time, they had the 66 Spider-Man or on on TV and everything, and I watched that every day after school. So I was like, in hog heaven. Plus, he was a character. I was always like a small kid, so I kind of related to the really nerdy aspect of it. And no matter how bad my problems got, Spidey had worse problems. So that always kind of gave me a comforting thing. Now during the clone thing, I think you can't beat that. So
You could figure out you couldn't relate to having 700.
I could not.
copies of stuff?
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, or there's some of the Straczynski stuff I wasn't big on, but pretty much like every few years there's gets to be something that I love about the character come. I'm hoping that the Zeb Wells and the Ramita turn out to be good, but I'm ride or die. I can't imagine me going through a period where I'm like, no, I'm done, because there's always going to be someone better and new around the corner. Give it a few years and it'd be great again.
Chris, what was it about Peter that caused and Spider-Man that got you to fall in love so much that you would mar your body with beautiful spider ink?
Yeah. So what he's talking about is I have a half sleeve Spider-Man tattoo. I like what Rob just mentioned. I was born in '74, so growing up, I got those late '60s reruns where Peter was often kind of bullied, made fun of at high school whenever they would show that on animation. Then Saturday morning cartoons, we got the Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So that ran for a couple of years. So that was my introduction to the character. At the time, for the big screen, for me, it was Superman. So it was Superman and Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was relatable. He was just a younger guy, and it was. Plus, my parents were buying me comic books at the time, so I was reading some of them, and I can obviously remember a handful of Spider-Man books. Reading, especially when the Hobgoblin first showed up. That's when I was really reading books that my dad or my mom were buying for me. And then I can remember finally getting an allowance and being allowed to go out to, the local convenience store by myself and buying my first Spider-Man book. And I can remember going there and looking at this wall of comics, because I guess comic books were a big thing for this variety store. And I can remember looking at Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, and having it in my hand and looking at it and then putting it down because this comic book was the one that I bought. And this is the Amazing Spider-Man 274. This is the book that I bought way back when with my own money. As you can see, there's a big stain here and it's all chipped to hell because it's been read 500 times. But this says no ads. And this is the reason why I bought this particular one first. I just thought,
Secret Wars 2 tie-in.
but it just looked like, okay, so Spider-Man's in agony. Why is he in agony? Well, there's no ads. I got 32 pages to find out what's going on. And the fact that there was like a pinup on the back cover of this as well. And ever since that issue, I knocked them all off. Knocked it off through the Gang War, knocked it off through Todd McFarlane's run and the Venom saga, and then into Eric Larson taking over and the whole Image explosion that came after it. But it was always Peter for me. And over time, I picked up the other two titles that were available. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I want to shoot it over to Louis for hopefully it's
not as long. Sorry.
Oh yeah, don't worry.
I know it's hard because we all love the character, and it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. God knows I have been accused of going down a few rabbit holes in my time.
Oh, dude. Well, it's so easy. I do have the Essential Spider-Man, so all the original stuff. So I was able to read the Romitas. So seeing him with his motorcycle dating Gwen, I think was the pinnacle Peter Parker in college. I'm like, dude, you're living your life. Like, don't let this be ruined. And of course, it all gets ruined. But my favorite time was at Dan Slott's time. I know a lot of people don't, but he was part of the Fantastic Four, the Future Foundation. He was an Avenger, 2 different Avengers teams. That's why he couldn't be with Mary Jane. Like, he had like 5 different teams he had to do it. So that's when I think it was fun again. And I did leave reading Spider-Man in the late 90s because it was garbage. But I came back with Dan Slott. I know, amazing. Brand New Day brought me back. Done.
Oh, you're dead to me, Louis.
I know.
What's wrong with Slot? I will fight you.
We'll get to it in a moment. So for myself, I think like a lot of people, Spider-Man, there's all of us can relate, whether, believe it or not, I too was a bit of a nerd, and aren't we all? And so it's easy to relate to that. I mean, like Chris and like Rob, my first introduction to Spider-Man came via the Electric Company.
Yes. Morgan Freeman, easy reader.
Yeah.
Yes, got those on DVD, baby. But then, of course, yes. I mean, the 60s Spider-Man cartoon. I mean, let's be honest. Is there any other theme song that even matters aside from Spider-Man? Spider-Man.
If the Ramones cover it, you know it's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's going to be with us till he dies. So
I mean, that is the best theme song ever. Loved the show as a kid. Even though now you go back, you look and go, oh wow, they did recycle a lot of animation, or but who cares?
Yeah.
But when it came time for, so I was already invested in Spider-Man and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and all that stuff. And yeah, you watch the Hall of Justice League or whatever it was called.
Super Friends.
Super Friends. Yep.
Yeah.
But you couldn't. Like Chris, I couldn't relate to an alien from space that's invulnerable to everything, but I could with Spider-Man. My first book of Spider-Man, though, wasn't Peter Parker. My first Spider-Man was Miguel O'Hara, because at the time, that was what I could get off the rack, because there was only one spinner rack of comics at the PEX/bookstore at the military school I was at when I first started getting into it. And there was the red shiny.
Yeah. Come on.
I mean, if you're going to pick a number one, that's a good number one to pick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I loved, I was aware of Peter from all the cartoon stuff, fell in love with Miguel O'Hara, launched my whole 2099 love.
Cool.
But then once I got out of that school and got to where there was real comic book stores, you can sure as hell bet it was amazing. It was Spider-Man. It was Spectacular Spider-Man. It was Web of Spider-Man, and Wolverine on my pull list. That was about it.
Gotta have some variety.
That's right. That maybe the Fantastic Four for a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah. But I want to ask you guys this. So I'm very opinionated when it comes to. I know Chris try to rein in your surprise when it comes to Spider-Man at times. I challenge that aside from a few short stories here and there, that in reality, Spider-Man, the comic book, the Amazing Spider-Man, really hasn't been good since the end of Volume 1. Freaky, your rebuttal.
I honestly, I can agree because the first 100 are just awesome.
Wait, when you say first volume, sorry,
You talking 1 to 800?
No,
Or
800
1
is not the volume. The first
1
volume
to
runs
400
to
and change?
450.
30, no,
something.
yeah, it's in the 400s someplace.
Okay.
Yeah, I respect your opinion to be wrong.
Yeah, because I don't think it was until the Secret Wars and the new suit was when it kind of got
441.
interesting. Like that's when he kind of his momentum came back again. I think with the new suits, like it's fun again, and I think that was a cool Peter Parker time. He went on an adventure, nobody knew what happened. He came back. I liked that time, but then the stories were always like they rev you up and then they always let you down. I thought it was just always a roller coaster, and that's why I do like the 10-year long Dan Slott thing where you had to pay attention for 200 issues because it's gonna pay off. You're gonna have to wait, but it really does, and that's the continuity, Louis and me, and I always like that kind of stuff. So I get it because when a new writer takes off, like forget what happened before. And I hate that. Like, oh, dude, like you're leaving us hanging. Like, how many questions do we have? I mean, what happened to their kid? Like, that still bugs the crap out of me. I can't take it.
Renew your vows. Mm-hmm.
Chris?
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Chris, your rebuttal.
I maybe it's just because of the time era when I get introduced to the character. All the legendary storylines that everyone praises happened before 440. Like the Death of Kraven, Venom's introduction, Carnage's introduction. These are all 300s. Hobgoblin was 200s. The Death of Gwen was, 120, 121, 118?
121.
The numbers off and then the Death of the Green Goblin after that. And like all the big ones happened then. Now, don't get me wrong. Dan Slott did have some interesting storylines, but again, the whole Superior Spider-Man that fell out of after issue 800 really made me struggle with the whole idea of the character.
Horrors, my goodness.
Yeah, it really, and the funny thing is, every so often when Superior comes up, people actually talk about they preferred that Spider-Man over Peter. And that's my question always is, are you ruffling my feathers on purpose? Like, anyways. But yeah, I at this point right now, unless Zeb Wells can wow me right off the bat, I think everything before the volume 1 did have the best stories, pound for pound.
Before I go to Rob, I'll simply say that when I talk about the Superior Spider-Man and I talk about my enjoyment of it, it is limited strictly to the 12-issue Superior run where he's in San Francisco running his own stuff as opposed to everything else. But I'd never say that it's better than the long stories of Peter. Rob, your rebuttal. Can you argue for the latter stuff over volume 1?
Over volume 1, that is hard to do. I mean,
has any of it been good other than a few minor stories here and there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the first couple of years, you had the John Byrne, Howard Mackie stuff, which was terrible. Then you went to Straczynski, which alternated between like really good and then really terrible. I mean, you don't want to go into like the whole Norman Osborn kid thing and all that stuff. It's terrible. So when you get to Brand New Day, it like breathes it's a breath of fresh air. And that's like partially Slott. But when you get to Slott, he knows how Spidey works. Whether you love him or hate him, he knows that Spidey's based on building him up and then just taking a big old dump on him. And all throughout that storyline, you see that how he's adding to the Spider-Man mythos, whether it's Spider-Verse or Superior Spider-Man or Spider Island or any of that stuff. He's always adding. And so if he takes away something like, say, Flash Thompson or Marla Madison, he's always adding 5 more characters to it. And also treating Spidey like crap, because that's what we want to see. After that, we get Spencer, and nobody here wants to talk about that. And now, we're going to get Zeb Wells, which he was part of the Brand New Day team. So it has potential to be good. Now, whether it's better than the original stuff from 1 to 441, that's tough because, it's hard to beat like the, Lee Ditko Ramita stuff. I mean, you're just not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to even sit there and say that, you have to beat it necessarily, because it's really hard to beat, as we talked about. When you look at volume 1, your first 100 issues are all the establishment of so much that is, right? And laid the foundation of the character, created all these villains, everything else. Well, 100 to 200 was again just kind of continuing on. Now we're turning a page. His life is, he's getting a little bit older, new things are being introduced to his life, he's getting married, blah 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 blah. And into the 200s, and then all your introductions of, again, the whole Venom and Carnage and all this stuff. You exclude your Clone War, your clonage crap. Overall, it's pretty good. My problem is when you go past that, though, Volume 2, ultimately the things that stand out to me from Volume 2 are, we take away Mary Jane, which I can never endorse or support, because to me, when it's great, I understand that Peter gets built up, he gets torn down, he gets built up, torn down, but where it was always good was when he was at his lowest low, that he could always go home and Mary Jane was there to pick him back up and make you understand why and how he could get back up and go back out there and continue on, right? And that she was a huge superhero to him in that aspect. Taking her out of that equation, to me, is just makes it, you're beating up on this guy. And then, of course, Doc Ock. I mean, right? Then what? Then you go to the shortest volume ever, Volume 3, which is all of 15 issues if you don't count the plus one, the 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s. Okay, we get Cindy Moon out of there, but it's it's great.
It's got Spider-Verse, man.
It's basically, but it's basically a short story. It's so. I mean, you could count it as probably the best outside of Volume 1, but it didn't have a long time to go awry. And then Volume 4, you made Peter Parker into frickin' the next Iron Man with having the whole Parker Industries and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, there were elements of it that were interesting.
He was dating flashy women too.
Yeah, I mean,
he was dating Mockingbird.
Right, he was dating Mockingbird. We had another Spider-Mobile.
And his assistant or whatever.
Right,
I like Kelly Cooper too.
But so, go ahead.
Well, Mary Jane suffered, dude. Like, she suffered every night, worried about him, and they did show that a lot. Like, she's smoking cigarettes, and she's like, "This guy gonna come back alive?" So it was hard for her. She's like, who was her superhero? Like, she's always making sure this guy's alive every night.
Right.
And I thought so. I like Carly Cooper made sense for him. She was a nerd like him, and I don't know. I really liked that time. Like, to me, that was like, it was just like, that seems like that's more of a girl he would get. Not this bodacious babe, And I love Peter, but come on, MJ's
you gotta have the redhead.
Yeah, and I'm loving this chat too. This chat is killing it.
I know. All right, so where do we want? Where would you like to see this kind of go in the next? As we're looking into volume 6 now, about to launch. JR back on the book, Zeb Wells. It definitely, on the surface of things, gets you excited. Knowing Marvel, I'm sure there's a way that they can wreck it. But
no, that's DC, man. That's DC.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you wonder if there's really much difference.
Yeah.
The question is, what do we want to see? What do you want to see, Chris?
On the home life, I need some stability. You touched on when Peter gets home, he needs that woman there to put him back together again. That's why to me the Venom story in 298, 299, 300 was so personal. When Venom first shows up, it's in Peter's apartment, and who he first sees is MJ. So I kind of want that stability in his personal life, but yeah, the superhero life, fracture it up. I'd like to see maybe some sort of standoff with another world-class superhero while in the wings, whatever is happening that's supposed to be sinister is sinister. It doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new villain brought in, but it doesn't have to be the constant regurgitation of some sort of goblin. It can be someone that you pull out from, the 200 line, someone that was in there. I'm not afraid to do a Kingpin centric story for the first 12 issues. If you want to focus on what's happening in New York City, outside of what Daredevil's been doing with Devil's Reign, go ahead and focus. Let Peter deal with.
Pause for 1 second.
ahead.
I want to ask a question on that since you just brought that up and it just jogged my
Mhm.
mind. What the hell ever happened with the Kingpin and these tablets and all the other crap that Boomerang and freaking whatever that little creature was that we're going on getting? Did they ever resolve that and did I miss it?
Boomerang died. I know that. I can't speak for GOG though.
But what about
I
these
don't remember.
tablets that they were? Kingpin wanted these tablets and
Yeah,
Had something to do with Harry and Kindred and
Right.
all that, and I mostly just
Yeah.
don't care.
Again,
All right,
that's,
sorry.
that's
Just-
buried.
I'm just like all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait a second, we just did a
the dirt's
Kingpin
thrown on
shit.
it, man.
It
Just
was
let,
That's
let it
what I'm
lie.
talking about. They just leave it.
Yeah, just give us a season. Just like artists and writers refer to 12 issues as seasons. Just give us 12 issues, wrap it up. Like if you want to kind of have issue 12 roll into the next storyline, whatever, God bless you. Let it happen. But whatever it is that we're going to do, give Peter some stability somewhere, whether he's still trying to get to 100% because he's dealing with the fallout from the UFOs or whatever. Okay. But it doesn't have to be silly. And for the love of God, let's not have that 5-letter clone word anywhere mentioned in the first 12 issues of the next volume.
How about the next 50?
Yeah.
Louis, what do you want to see?
I'd like to see a Spider-Man family style thing, like Batman family. He has a whole bunch of spider people that can actually take a lot of stuff off him so he can finally become a man and have a family and do his thing. Because I want to see Mayday. I want to see the future now. Like, I mean, same thing with Batman. He's got Damian. Like, we can do this. He can have a kid and do his thing. And we don't have to speed it up. I know we saw MJ pregnant before, and we're like, nobody wants to kind of do that over again. So there's a way you can do like skip 5 years ahead, and we can see him like, hey, I'm ahead of whatever. I don't really have to go out there. I got Miles. I got all the Spider Girls, and that also puts some shine on all the Spider people. There's a lot of Spider people. They don't eat. There's like 5 titles of Spider people every week, forever, you know. So I really think that
And
would be
several of
awesome.
them that don't have titles. They're just
Yeah, you know, so like a Spider-Man Incorporated or something like that, where he can take some of that edge off of him, and maybe even be better. Because I know people make fun of his Superior. I think he was better at being Spider-Man than Peter because he handled stuff. I know, but he had robots like searching his stuff while he's going out on a date. He's like, I can have a life and have these things being handled.
he was Spider Batman.
Yes,
Planned-
yes.
He's a
planned
1
for
percenter.
contingencies. He had
He had money. Come on, he was dressing nice.
right. So Rob, aside from Lex Luthor taking over as Spider-Man,
Boom.
Yeah,
what would you like to see? Everything's okay. We're just simply fine.
love it. Perfectly fine.
I'd like to see, again, starting off small, everything's okay, and then building it up until everything turns to crap. That's the Spider-Man mold for me. But I want to see like more classic villains that aren't Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. Like I want to see some Scorpion, some Electro. Maybe not so much Kraven. We got a little overexposed last time.
Scorpion stuck in the Beyond universe with
That-
where he after he
Does
was
it really count though?
I don't know. He was he became
Gates has a lot of weight right now.
he got a suit of armor and got left in the future
Oh,
someplace.
dang.
I mean,
I can always see more of a Hobgoblin because that's where I like really grew up on.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Anything from like 220 to about 300, that's like perfect Spidey for me. So anything like that, I'm gold.
yeah, I want to, for myself, I'd like to see, some more stuff that's a little bit more grounded, more of the stuff kind of, in the streets and stuff again. I like the idea of just dealing with some of the gangster, whether it be, maybe there's a big turf war. Let me see Tombstone, and let me see Hammerhead, and let me see Kingpin, some kind of turf war, and Spider-Man stuck in the middle of it all, and maybe he's bringing in some of the other Spider people into there, whatever, and maybe then introduce somebody who is a new villain that's not just a clone of another villain, right? But really a new villain established that, or bad guy. He doesn't even have to be like a super evil villain, just another
Like Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is perfect.
Oh yeah, Mr. Negative is
yeah.
great. Yeah, I wouldn't mind
Mhm.
seeing some more of him in
Aaron
that.
Slot. Whoa.
Mix all those guys, mix them all together, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to deal with it. All right.
Yeah.
A broken
And
clock is right
goddamn it.
twice a day.
And I want exactly, and I want Mary Jane back in there, right?
Yes.
And so that's just me. Oh my goodness, guys, we're getting here to the end of this, and I think we could probably go on for another half hour or more easily on this.
Oh, yeah.
So let's to start to kind of bring us into a wrap up on this. I mean, anything else on Spider-Man that you want to take? Give you guys each 60 seconds or so here. Whether it's about him, about the movies. Oh shit! Well, let's ask that one last question, and then we'll do the wrap up. All right, best actor to play Spider-Man. Go ahead, Chris.
Garfield.
Louis.
Wow. Garfield.
Rob.
Are you talking about playing just Spider-Man? Because then I would agree with Garfield, but Toby, I would think, is the best Peter. Garfield's the best Spider-Man. Tom Holland has a nice balance between the two, which makes him the most digestible, I think.
Agreed on all that, but Garfield's his best.
The last movie convinced me on Garfield.
Yeah,
Wow.
I never wanted to see another. I mean, I could have gone without seeing another amazing movie until No Way Home, and now I'm like, that's all I want.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just all I want in the world. Just give
Yes.
me give me three. Just give me amazing three
Yes.
right now.
Here's all the money.
Yeah,
I really
take all
don't. I don't even care. You put somebody in Spider-Man suit. I'm fucking right.
Oh, you'll care because it might be like David Schwimmer one day, and then you're going to pay yourself.
That'd be Nicolas Cage.
Whoa! Give me back that Japanese fellow that played him. In the
Nicolas
70s.
Cage will be Spider-Man.
He is.
Oh, he'd do it too.
He is. He's
I
Spider-Man Noir.
love it. I would love it.
That's right. He is. There you go. I do like that one.
Spider-Man
All
Noir
right.
was a lot of fun.
All right, Rob. Spider-Man. He's our love. We love everything else. What else would you like? Anything else you'd like to say about him, or what attracted to him, or what do you hate about him?
I hate about him. I think I hate anything about him. I am of the opinion that more Spider-Man is great for me. I think we're in a golden age of, well, at least like live action media for that. So I'm waiting for the comic book movie bubble to burst. But right now, I will take all the Spider-Man movies I can get, whether they're good or bad. I don't care. Just give me more of them,
Awesome,
especially Spidey.
Louis.
Same thing. Spidey is eternal, and you can't not have enough. I mean, we love him to death. Who else had so many reboots? We keep digging, keep going back for it. Yeah, man, and he's always been, for me, just a center rock. Like that is like that's why I got it tattooed on my body. I'm like, I know I'm gonna love it forever. So that's what it is, people. You got to. It's a Spider life.
Yeah, Chris.
60 seconds. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hit the fast forward button. The second best Spider-Man scene ever filmed was Toby in the subway. The best Spider-Man scene ever filmed was Andrew Garfield not catching Gwen and his reaction afterwards, and then the story that told for him being gone for 3 or 4 seasons was some serious heartbreak. I know that Tom Holland's character, we got to witness heartbreak recently, and all of us kind of felt bad for the kid. But for me, it was Andrew Garfield's performance there, and that's the reason why he'll always be my favorite Spider-Man on the live screen. Why haven't we got the death of Kraven in an animated film yet? I don't know, but that's probably the biggest injustice I feel that's ever happened to Peter Parker, and that's what I'm going to hang it up on.
Ooh, I know the answer to that too. They don't want to promote suicide. They don't want to promote suicide in any of that.
Yeah.
That's the main reason why we don't get more of that.
They put a twist on it.
He could have.
They could
Captain
rewrite
America
that.
could come in and put the cups on him, but yeah.
Yeah, they would have to. They would have to like totally. Even if it was rated R, they'd have to like totally just whitewash that whole thing.
For me, I will always continue to pick up, as Chris and I refer to him as, the franchise.
He is.
I will probably always complain about it because my hindsight, his rose-tinted glasses, and everything that I read in the past was the best thing I ever read, except for the current crap. Yeah. For me, some of the best stuff I thought that I've read recently in comics was actually came out of the Spider-Man 2099 Volume 3 with him working alongside Peter Parker for extended periods of time. And I would love to see another crossover with Spider-Man 2099.
Down for
Damn
that.
it. Miguel O'Hara, you're number 2, brother. You're my number 2.
I would agree with that.
Oh, all right, guys. This has been phenomenal.
Yes,
We
sir.
may have to revisit this topic again sometime in the future because there's so much more to talk about with Spider-Man,
Part
and
two.
especially if we
Yes,
go
sir.
down the road of talking tangential characters like your favorite other Spider person. We can get into some great debates. Thank you all, each and every one of you guys coming on. Let me give you a moment. Tell us next 1 or 2 things you got coming up. Chris, you got it. Obviously, we know. Go ahead. I'll let you say it. I just said I'd let you know, not talk for you.
For those of you who have never seen me before and this is your first time, please consider subscribing to my channel.
And if you've never
I'm-
seen him, subscribe to my channel too while you're
Yeah.
at it, because he's
I'm making a big push towards 600 subscribers. I'm giving away at least 3 CGCs, a bunch of artist-based prize packs as well. Once I hit 600, I think I'm only 29 subscribers away. Today, I just dropped my favorite top 5 covers that were released for the month of January. It's something I'm going to do for the remainder of this year, but for the rest of this year. And yeah, it was kind of fun to do. And this Saturday, catch me on this handsome fellow's channel on SlabHub.
with our very special guest, Remy Q, baby.
Yeah. Awesome.
Louis. Which, before
I
we
know.
let Louis go, we have to say this again because Louis won't self-promote quite as much
Funniest
as
man
the
on
rest of
YouTube.
them. Why
Funniest man on
haven't
YouTube.
you people subbed him up?
Yeah.
It's
Honestly.
criminal.
I love
Unless,
it. You know,
I mean, watching his channel will make you a criminal,
that's
especially
what
if his son
happens.
is around.
I love those comments, and people are like, "Why haven't I seen this guy before?" So that's what I do it for.
Yeah.
Those people that just discover me, I'm like, "Oh yay!" So I lose a sub like every day. I lose a bot every day.
Me too, Louis. It breaks my heart.
Just as
Yeah,
long as your
like,
son's
what do I
not,
do, bot?
just as long as your son stays off camera or keeps his
Dude.
pants on.
Like that's the new rule. Like I can't do it unless somebody's definitely watching them or he's asleep. Like I can't. Like that's the what the judge said. Anyways.
What's coming up on the channel? When's our next episode of Saturday Night Louie?
So I won a comic from Moonlit Comics, a Moon Knight one. So, and I think she's gonna add some stuff in there. So I might do something with that because I have some stuff in the works, some fun things, but it's really I don't know with the time with this kid. He's tricky. So I don't know if 10 o'clock is still gonna work or not. So that's what I'm trying to juggle right now. Just that. But yeah, I want to bring back the Freaky Fridays too. Got a bunch of cool free comics to send out. My Dollar Bin Wednesdays are always happening. But Saturday Night Louie is definitely always awesome. And I know there's going to be great things. It has to. It's all community based. So,
That's awesome.
enough
That's
said.
Mr. RVB.
All I got is the Comic Book Heroes podcast, where me and my buddy, we talk about what comic book movies did right, what they did wrong. Most recent one was No Way Home. Next one's probably going to be Green Lantern. There's lots to talk about there.
Where can they find your podcast?
Everywhere. We didn't take it off Spotify though, because we need the hits. But yeah, we are everywhere your podcasts want to be.
And the name of the podcast one more time?
Comic Book Heroes.
There you guys go check them out. Rob and I have known each other a long time, and we argue all the time about who's the better Rob.
Yeah.
Damn.
We all know who's that.
Oh.
But hair alone, it's me. Other than that, no.
Come on.
Facial hair
Kind of
doesn't facial hair
glorious hair
count?
in front of
Facial hair
us.
counts, man. Just because you've got a long mop on your head don't mean that I don't fucking win it with the
That's
greatest
true.
mustache on YouTube.
Your mustaches have been epic. Even before you had your channel, they were epic.
It's true.
Oh, guys, everybody in the chat, thank you. I mean, we couldn't throw you guys all up throughout it. We were just trying to get through everything we want to get through, but we were watching and reading along with you guys. Phenomenal discussion going on in the chat. Thank you all for coming out and turning out. Of course, this week coming up on Thursday on my channel will be a quick Golden Age CG and one Silver Age CGC unboxing of just like 3 or 4 books. And then Saturday, of course, is SlabHub with Remy Q, baby. And then we turn around into Monday, which you all know what happens there. I promise that next Monday's mail call will not be an all mystery in space mail call. Oh, guys, as always, thank you all for coming out, and make sure that you collect what you want. Don't listen to anybody, let anyone tell you what you should or shouldn't collect,
Never.
especially me, because I'm just a fat man with a fat stack of comics and a fat opinion. Thanks all for coming.